Let's check in with our old friend Alex Lawson, the executive director of SocialSecurityWorks.org and StrengthenSocialSecurity.org. ALaw202 is his Twitter handle, or SSWorks, and find out what the deal is here. Alex, welcome back to the program. It's been too long since we've talked.
It has, Tom. Thanks for having me.
It's always a pleasure, Alex, anytime. First of all, the Trust Act, what is this?
So what the Trust Act is just, politicians who want to rob us of our earned benefits are also cowards. They won't just come out and tell us that they want to cut Social Security benefits because they know they'll lose if they do that. So what they want to do is set up an unaccountable commission behind closed doors that does that cuts Social Security benefits. That's what the Trust Act is. And you said, it's coming back. But the truth is, as you know, Tom, it just has never gone away. I mean, the people who want to do this, they're always here in Washington, D.C. The Republicans just down the line, they want to destroy Social Security. But the dangerous part is the Wall Street faction of the Democratic Party who also want to do something like this. Now, there's not many of them anymore, but we always have to be worried about a setup where you have a divided, if there's a Democratic White House and then a Republican-held Congress, that's a really dangerous setup for Social Security. And Trust Act is the so-called Trust Act is the weapon that they would use to get at it.
Are you talking about the so-called Corporate Problem Solver Caucus, Josh Gottheimer and his buddies?
Yeah, and it really does come from the Republican side. Republicans want to cut Social Security and Democrats want to expand Social Security. But as well as I do, Tom, that when it comes to divided government, that's when triangulation starts being bandied about, and the very serious people start coming and pushing their ideas about deficits and how we can't afford things. We saw this during the Obama years, and a sort of, an easily led astray White House. We saw for basically 6 years, we had 2 years of governing with Obama, and then for 6 years, we had to fight off attempt after attempt after attempt to cut our earned benefits. And they usually came in the form of something like a commission. So right. That's what the Trust Act is, and that's what we have to be on guard against.
They're basically trying to reinvent the Greenspan Commission of 1983, as I recall, that added income taxes to Social Security, that almost doubled the Social Security tax that we all have to pay, and that lowered the Social Security eligibility age or raised it rather to, what is it's going to be 77, I think, ultimately?
67, yeah.
67, excuse me, yeah, thank you.
Which is just a 16% benefit cut, as you know. Right. Each year it goes up, it's just a straight benefit cut. Something like that, but it's actually more akin to the BS commission under Obama, the Bowles-Simpson commission.
Oh, geez.
Where they propose things that are even less obvious, like the so-called chain CPI, right? The whole idea is they don't want people to know what they're doing to Social Security. So they hide it behind confusing things, which is why it's so important that you're calling it out here. When I got to testify in front of the Senate Budget Committee, I got the chance to call it out to Mitt Romney's face, which he was very angry about. That's what's going on. We can't let them pretend that that's not what they're talking about with the Trust Act.
We're talking. Go ahead.
They are planning on cutting Social Security. If the Trust Act moves forward, that's what that means.
And we're talking with Alex Lawson, the executive director of Social Security Works, SocialSecurityWorks.org. Alex, this is pretty grim. The other thing that I've been watching, and I wanted to get an update from you on the status of, is the ongoing privatization of Medicare. Obviously, they want to privatize Social Security. They haven't found a wedge yet to do that. But in 2003, as I recall, correct me if I'm wrong, George W. Bush and the Republicans and a few of these corporate Democrats in Congress figured out a way to privatize Medicare with the so-called Medicare Part C, so-called Medicare Advantage. I know Ro Khanna and Mark Pocan are working on legislation to forbid insurance companies from using the word Medicare when they're selling these private insurance policies to seniors. But that's just a small step, and I'm sure it'll be fought tooth and nail, even if that gets anywhere. But what's the status of the efforts to continue and expand the privatization of Medicare, including some of the programs that are being run right now inside the Biden administration?
Yeah, I actually am very hopeful that we can defeat attempts to cut Social Security. I really am, Tom, because we're in a different place than we were with the BS Commission. I don't think that Biden is going to willingly go down the path of letting the Republicans, just keep creating crises to come after Social Security. He's doing great work on Social Security right now. He just asked for extra hundreds of millions of dollars for it. That being said, the privatization of Medicare is continuing at pace. It's extremely scary to watch happen. We're getting right to where the private insurers are making up just over 50% of the system. And that's a real tipping point. They can then control so much of the market that they can start dictating things like hospital groups not allowing and not taking traditional Medicare patients. And we just have report after report that what they do is what private insurers always do. What they only can do, the only way they make money is by denying care. And people think that they're on Medicare. They think that, this means that if they get sick, they get the care that they need. But they maybe didn't even know that they signed up for a private plan, called Medicare Advantage. But what that means is just a private insurer who's going to deny care. And the last time they looked at it, Tom, they found 13% wrongful denials of care across the whole system. Now, we figure that there are some plans that maybe have lower rates of, wrongful denials. We think there's some like good guy plans. That means that there are some plans that are denying 1 out of 3 people wrongfully. And we know that what that means is that people can die. Wrongful denials of care, prior authorizations, all of these different ways of saying not giving you the health care that you need in hopes many times that you do die, because then you don't cost them any money. And that's why we can never allow private insurance to take over traditional Medicare. And unfortunately, we're right at that tipping point right now with Medicare Advantage.
Yeah, it's about half of all people who think they're on Medicare are actually on Medicare Advantage, on private health insurance that, basically the only association with Medicare is that Medicare pays the bills to the insurance company.
Exactly.
And then the insurance company, tax on their 30% profit. So forgive me for forgetting the name of the program, but there's this experimental program within the Biden administration right now that is looking to involve physicians' offices and hospitals with basically signing people up for Medicare even if they don't want it. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so it was called DCEs, and really with your help, we scared the administration enough about it that they did put on some guardrails, and they renamed
direct
it.
Contracting entities.
Direct contracting, yeah. And then now they're going to call it the REACH program, so they changed the name. That's a pretty classic trick. But at its root, right, you can't reform this system, and that's the point. You know this. The private insurers, you can't add them into the system and save money, right? Like that doesn't happen. What happens is they deny care. They don't know how to deliver good care more cheaply. All they know how to do is deny care. And so that leads to both wrongful denials of care, but also they charge more than traditional Medicare. So as is often the case with this sort of like corruption, it's both cruel and stupid, right? It's cruel because it hurts people, but it's stupid because the whole idea they sell is that it saves money. But you and I know, and every time they look at it, these corporations just rob the Medicare trust fund as well. So they're denying care and then they're overcharging to do that. It's really the worst setup that you could imagine.
What's the pressure point? We're talking with Alex Lawson, the executive director of Social Security Works. What is the pressure point? How do we reach out to members of Congress? What kind of language should we use when we call, for example, 202-225-3121 and get our member of the House or one of our 2 senators on the phone or a representative from their office? What in a short, concise way can be said
What we need to do, and what our ask is right now, is we're demanding that our members of Congress tell us who are the bad actors in Medicare Advantage, and we actually exclude them from the system. So we'll even say, you know, like, you don't have to get rid of the entire MA system, because that's a tough lift right now. We think it's the right thing to do, but maybe your member's not there yet. Well, your member has to be there for at least getting rid of the bad actors in the system, the people who we know are hurting people right now. That is their job. They can't tell us, you know, oh, well, some plans are denying care of 1 in 3 people, but we're not going to tell you who that is. That's ridiculous. It's their job to make sure that their constituents are protected from these bad actors in Medicare Advantage.
Yeah, I get it. So let's start looking into the companies that are selling Medicare Advantage programs that are fraudulent or that are just bad, like you said, bad actors. Alex Lawson, Executive Director of Social Security Works, socialsecurityworks.org, ALaw202 on Twitter. Alex, thanks a lot for dropping by. It's always great talking with you.
Thanks, Tom.
Great talking. We'll be right back. I got a crazy alert, and is DeSantis going to get away with racist voting fraud?